Whittaker Weekly is a 3-episode anime discussion podcast where two brothers discuss a show of their choice. The show can be anything from a current season flop to a decades-old classic. What are they going to talk about next? Who knows? They sure don't. I'm Andrew.
I'm Lee.
And this is Whittaker Weekly. Let's get right to it, you guys. So first off, let's cover the news. You found some great news for us this week.
Oh, yeah. So I discovered that both My Hero Academia is getting a second movie and Demon Slayer is getting its first movie.
I still need to finish that.
It's really good. The last episode just came out, and so the end of the last episode really brings into the next arc, which is going to be introduced by the movie.
Okay.
And so it's all interconnected. Something to do with they call in the Japanese they call it the Mugen Train. In the English subtitles they call it the Infinity Train.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of interesting seeing that the My Hero Academia movie 2 is coming out right in December, which makes me wonder if that means it's coming out is that when the season's planning on ending? Is that when is that because we're getting episode 1 of season 4 here pretty soon, if it hasn't already dropped by the time this episode airs.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, possibly. I mean, that's going to be the end of the season.
I mean, we're in October now, and they said that episode 1 of season 4 is dropping in October. I just didn't know exactly when, so I'm going to have to look that up.
Probably, I think it's the 4th. I could be wrong, though. Don't quote me on that.
Well, if it is, and it's the day this podcast drops.
Feel free to correct me in the comments, you guys. We'll probably have looked it up by the time it's posted. But anyway, so that's real excited. And then you found some other bit of news that was more, telling me about it, and then you decided to post it here. So,
yes. It turns out Critical Role is getting Funko Pop, action figures, and more. According to a comicbook.com article, McFarlane Toys and Funko Pop is working together with the cast of Critical Role to make figurines, action figures, and the like for them.
That's really, really cool. But about Funko Pop, I keep getting out and they keep pulling me back in. I keep stopping. I'm like, no more Funko Pop. I'm done. And then they do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And if they have Funko Pop of Vox Machina, the group from season 1 of campaign 1 of Critical Role, yeah, I'm okay not getting it for campaign 2. It's fine. It's just not the same to me. Doesn't speak the same way to me that campaign 1 did. It's great. It's popular. People love it. That's fine. Just not really the same to me. But if they have campaign 1 stuff, oh man. And actually, I just got an email letting me know that because in season 1, campaign 1, they jumped into the middle of the story. Like they had been playing this game for years at home, and they just kind of jumped in when they started streaming it. So in order to tell people the backstory of Vox Machina and how they got together, they've been coming out with comics. Last year, they came out with 6 issues. Now they're in arc 2, and they're coming out with a new one each month for the next several months. I've got the hardcover. I've got all the digital ones purchased. And I've got the hardcover on pre-order, and that should be coming out in a couple of weeks. Hardcover where it's the collection of all 6 issues of the first season. But what? You're making
I gotta admit, when the moment you did what you did, I had to Google it, and yes, there are Godfather Funko Pops.
Gosh. There's Funko Pops everything.
There's one of Vito Corleone petting a cat.
I saw a mock-up. I don't know if it actually went into production. If it did, then this is another Funko Pop I will buy. But it was a Funko Pop of Tony Stark with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Ooh.
That was so cool. I'm just like, oh man. All right. So anyways, and then I found a little bit of news, and I'm a massive kaiju fanboy. I guess not really kaiju, more of a Godzilla fanboy, but I do love the kaiju genre. The Criterion Collection is going to be releasing the Showa-era Godzilla movies in an 8-disc Blu-ray box set.
Mm-hmm.
The Showa era, for those of you who don't know, it was the reign of Emperor Showa from 1926 to 1989. And Japan, they usually have their years like Showa 1 is their year 1, but it's everyone else's 1926.
Okay.
I can't remember what the current era is, but anyways, it's the Reiwa. Okay, it was Heisei when I was in Japan, but now it's the Reiwa era. Started this year actually.
Oh.
But anyways, yeah. So that's the Showa era. So it's 15 movies that were made between 1954 and 1975.
All Godzilla movies.
Include all Godzilla movies, including the original Gojira, which is a masterpiece in cinematography. As far as I'm concerned, is one of the best movies ever made. It's phenomenal. Yeah. So I have it pre-ordered myself. I am putting money aside for it because it is pricey. But I am very excited for this to come out later on this month. Actually, it should be out by the end of October. October 29th is when it's coming out. Yeah. So, anyways, speaking of which, I just watched a couple of episodes during my lunch break at work today of Everything Great About, or Cinema Wins.
Yes.
And they did Everything Great About Godzilla King of the Monsters, which came out this year, which I loved that movie. It was incredible. And then I watched the one he just released this last week of Kong Skull Island.
Oh.
So,
because I remember the one you had me watch that was the Bryan Cranston Godzilla,
the 2014 one,
the 2014 Godzilla, where the wind counter that when Godzilla
ding 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 ding.
Godzilla rips open the mouth of his enemy and breathes nuclear blast right into his gullet, and the wind counter just starts skyrocketing.
And he passes out, and the screen goes black.
Like, what was that? It's great. Go watch it. Go watch it after you watch this.
Yeah, well, then he does something similar in one of the Godzilla versus King Ghidorah fights.
Okay.
King Ghidorah is the three-headed dragon from space. Yeah, and he I forget exactly which one it is, but he does it, and it's just the wind counter just goes up again because of how awesome it is. But anyway, so yeah, that's it for the news. Let's get right into our 3 episodes in, and you picked it this week, so why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners or our viewers, however they are hopefully listening or paying attention to us, please give us attention. Why don't you go ahead and tell them what we watched?
Okay, so we're moving into October, and I kind of thought it would be fun to have a bit of a transition between our September theme of Schools with a Twist into October, which our theme will be, traditional monsters in anime.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I cheated a little bit for mine, but for my pick. But anyways,
or maybe okay. So I'm not entirely sure exactly. We're doing a Halloween theme for October, and however we're doing that, we're not necessarily specifically monsters, but it turns out I wanted to go a bit of a transitional period, so I picked Little Witch Academia. Which is currently streaming live on Netflix, and Netflix has the following synopsis. It reads, Ako enrolls in the Luna Nova Witchcraft Academy. She's not the best student, but her bright attitude is the key to her and her friends' success. Not a lot there, not as wordy as the Crunchyroll synopses tend to be.
Yeah.
But it's enough. And it's a great little show so far. We both watched the first 3 episodes. First episode, actually, I don't know what order this came in, but this show does borrow a lot from Harry Potter in certain ways. For example, there is an idea that she had to be at a certain place at a certain time to get to her school.
Okay.
So there was, and she thought it was a bus stop, and so she's asking everybody around town, where the bus stop for this is, and eventually some kids tell her there are no bus stops in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a cute bit of animation, she sits on a hill, looking at the map, going, "This is so vague. Where am I supposed to go?" And then she sees a little structure on her map, and then looks on the hill and sees the structure up the hill, directly above where she's sitting, and just this quick little, double take. It's absolutely adorable that she does, and finds where she's trying to get to. And on her way up the hill, she meets Susie.
Well, we're jumping ahead just a little bit. The very beginning, it shows her at this magic show, and she's a 6-year-old girl. And I just wanted to go ahead and point out that and the animation of this show is beautiful in a way. I mean, sometimes it feels jaggy and poorly animated, but the overall quality I think is just tremendous for this show. And it's this beautiful, beautiful magic show, and you see her as this little girl just completely enthralled by it. That said, it's very much a game of let's pick the main character, or let's spot the main character at the very beginning. Because there's the witch who's performing all these incredible spells and doing this spectacular show, and then literally everybody else in the audience is blue with like black outlines, except for Atsuko, the main character.
Yes.
So I forgive it for that, just because honestly it doesn't really matter, and you're supposed to be focusing on her anyways, and that's an easier way to help focus on her and her reactions during that bit.
Right, and that's a very important thing that I skipped over, was the fact that she, as a young child, was inspired by this event. That she's seeing all this magic and seeing these wonderful things, and wondering. Yeah, and dedicating her life to trying to find a way into the magic community. And eventually she does, and eventually she's accepted into this academy. And apparently, on her way up, she is the talkative, wants to be everyone friend archetype, and she runs into this girl who looks like a cross between Fluttershy and Raven from Teen Titans, and her name is Susie.
There's another bit that I wanted to cover when she first arrives at that town, and she's super excited because she's finally at the town where her idol went to school. This magician went to school. And she's super excited. She's super happy, and she's a very bubbly, energetic girl.
Yes.
She's a lot of fun to watch. A whole lot of fun to watch.
She reminds me a bit of the sidekick in Kill la Kill.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
There seems to be some animation. I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that an animation director shared credits on these two projects. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out.
But anyways, she gets there, and she's so excited that she starts spinning around. And at the end of her spinning, she leans over and goes,
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't actually vomit anything. It's just she leans over and makes that noise that she's so excited and so energetic that she made herself dizzy and sick, or queasy to the stomach because of how much she spun. Anyways, that's just a great introduction to the character to kind of let you know what her personality is. So anyways, now we can go ahead and get to where she meets Susie.
Yes. Well, she literally runs into Susie and drops everything in her backpack because she's not paying attention to where she's going. She's literally focused on where she's going to, that she doesn't see the path she's taking to get there. Runs into somebody, and she drops everything out of her backpack and looks up and then sees a girl with dreary pink hair, covering up one eye, and a pale face and bland expression, kind of looking down on her, and not saying anything. But because she sees that she's holding a broom, she realizes she must be going to the Witchcraft Academy, the Luna Nova Witchcraft Academy too. And so she immediately tries to strike up a conversation. She's prattling on this, that, and the other thing. And eventually, without saying a word, Susie pulls out a vial, pops the cork, lets one drop fall into this plushie of a bird, and the bird is animated and comes to life. And is
To
it
which Akko is just so blown away. She thinks it's the coolest thing ever.
So she gets real close to it, and what does it do to her face?
It stabs her in the eye with its beak. It pecks her right in the eye.
To which we start to get a glimpse of Susie's demeanor in that regard. But Aiko pays no mind to it and can't wait to make friends with this person she met. And so she packs up her stuff and has the bird balance on her head while she's walking along across a bridge. There's a stone bridge over a river on the way up to this I don't even know what it is, a tower or something on the hill, a couple stories tall, 2 or 3, that they're heading to. And that's when Susie turns around to stop Aiko's talking and offers her a hand. And Aiko takes it with both hands and shakes, and that's when a couple of snakes come out of Susie's sleeve and wrap themselves around Aiko's hand. And she screams and falls off the bridge into the stream. And then when she gets up, she realizes that the snakes have been restored to their original form, a couple of ropes that have made their way around her arms.
In other words, this girl wants to be left alone. Go away.
Yes. Well, she takes the hint and leaves Susie alone and composes herself and makes her way back up to the top of the hill. At the top of the hill, there's 3 girls there who talk about who they're your stereotypical gang of girls who like the status quo and do not like newcomers or change, and are gossiping about how the school is going downhill because they're allowing commoners instead of pureblood witches to come into the school. And that's when Aiko comes up and is going to say hi and make friends with them when she overhears what they're saying and starts to be very embarrassed about her situation. And that's when they rub it in and saying, okay, if you're late for they establish the next consequence in the story is that if she is late for opening ceremony, she is immediately expelled. And apparently the only way to get to opening ceremony is to fly a broom up the central shaft of the tower into a ley line that runs between where they are to the school that they're going to.
Which, honestly, to me at first sounded like those 2 girls were just trying to, get her to give up, get her to go away so they could keep the school just for pureblood witches. But later on, it's revealed that no, that's not the case. If you are late, you will be expelled from the school. So
they didn't need to make that up. They just delighted in the fact, and clearly Aiko didn't bring a broom. She's never flown on one before, and so she doesn't know how to get up there. She tries climbing the vines that are inside and outside the tower, but she slips and falls, and lands right in front of another character who's introduced at that point. What's her? Who do we say her name? Lottie.
Lottie.
Lottie. And so Lottie is your shy, glasses-wearing type, who, after seeing quite a few incredibly sad expression faces on Aiko's face, agrees to let her ride on the broom with her.
But to which Akko just gets super excited. She's so happy. The facial expressions in this show are amazing. But anyways, let's go ahead and move forward.
So the next thing that I have written on my list of things to talk about is, as they're traveling through the ley line, it turns out that there's some trouble brewing.
It's beautiful too. Like, they fly up, it's a bit heavy. The broom's a bit heavy. They go up and they go into the ley line, and it's this gorgeous, just green energy surrounding them as they're going through. And you wrote that, so yeah.
There's a bit of chaos. And it turns out that Lottie knows that ley lines do not like salt. Did you bring any salt with you? Oh, you mean like pickled plums? Get rid of those. I can't live without these. And so they're flying in the ley line with turbulence, and so they can't. They're losing all of their stuff, which is a little bit like going to school with a basket on a pogo stick, to reference Brian Regan. Um, yeah, Brian Regan has a bit about going to school on a pogo stick with a basket to keep his stuff in it, but that didn't work out too well.
Okay. Anyways, so
so they eventually cause. Well, one of the things that gets lost, and this is a bit of a karma, is immediately following them into the ley line was Susie, who is minding her own business when the plushie that she had brought to life had been landed on her face after it fell out of Aiko's supplies, Aiko's backpack again. And then Aiko lands on her face to face, as they all collapse and fall out of the ley line into the Forbidden Forest.
There's a special name for it, but I didn't write it down. And then, like, as they fall, we cut to a teacher.
Yes.
We learned that her name is Professor Ursula.
Yes.
And anyways, she actually, a little bit of a side tangent, real fast. We're big families of Douglas Adams in our family. Okay, we love his series, his books. They're incredible. We love them. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Great books. Today is the 40th anniversary of the release of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I just barely learned that.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, just wanted to say that. Let's get back to it. It cuts to Professor Ursula, and a bird in her room starts squawking, and she's like, what is it? And the bird keeps squawking, so she knows something's up.
And I found out that that bird, Ursula gives it a name. Calls it by name. I don't remember what the name was, but I do remember that the plushie had the same name as this bird.
Okay. But anyways, this bird... Anyways, the bird starts squawking. She says, "What's going on?" And she casts a spell, and this
some sort of luminary rises up out of the floor.
Rises out of the floor, and a beautiful display of the stars. Astrological
star map.
Star map, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Covers
star map
is ceiling.
broadcast on the ceiling from this luminary,
and it's gorgeous. Like you see not only the stars but also what they all represent and things like that. What all the constellations. That's what I was looking for. Constellations.
Yes.
What they all signify. And she looks over there, and one of the stars, if I'm correct, it's actually the constellation of Hercules. I could be wrong though. But underneath his legs, a star is glowing brighter than the rest, and she's like, "Oh no, what's going on? Why there?" You know, and she's talking about, and then she mentions the name of the Forbidden Forest. It then cuts, and then you see kind of this twister land, and the three girls land on top of each other.
Yes.
Also, we
what I remember happening is Aiko's in a tree, waking up, and then she falls, and you hear some cracks. And then one of her prized possessions is a card of Shining Chariot. She has playable collecting cards that she has, collector's cards that she has, and it's a big character point for her that these are her most prized possession, her greatest treasure.
She spent her entire life collecting what she has. She has all but one of the cards. It's revealed later on.
So it turns out it lands on her, and it's like, oh, she's so happy that she got her treasure. And then as she's sitting up and celebrating, she realizes that she's sitting on Susie. And so that crunching must have been her spine getting popped with the sudden thud. Like, I know those sounds. I've been to a chiropractor. I know those sounds.
So we see that Lot's broom is now broken, so it's unusable. Susie still has hers. And she casts, they're walking through this forest, And Susie is a bit of an alchemist otaku, an alchemy nerd. She's all about super rare parts and pieces, ingredients,
and
I guess I
lethal
should say,
poisons.
and lethal poisons. She loves poisons. There's even a scene because all these three girls end up rooming together, but they even because they're problem children and therefore need to be kept an eye on at the same time. They there's a scene where they are where the other two are just waking up. Lottie and Akko are both just waking up, and Susie is already up, and she's experimenting with her deadly poisons. And one of the poisons is dangerous enough that she puts on a gas mask, but doesn't warn the other girls about it.
Yes.
So, anyways,
and so she's actually declared that she was never intending to go to the school. She intended to go to this forest to collect ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So she's where she intended to be anyway.
Mm-hmm. But then, and so she's there collecting ingredients, and they're going with her because they don't want to, be separated because this is a dangerous place. I forget what sets it off, but Lucy has the other two girls, or not, Susie, not Lucy. I put her name down wrong. Let me go ahead and change that. Susie, she tells the other girls to stand in this circle of rope that she's just made. And then they do so. She casts a spell, and the ropes become a cage. And anybody who has an ounce of intelligence, meaning not the two other girls, will know that that's a cage.
Yes.
She just put them in a cage. But
a
Akko is just
cage.
so impressed by this spherical cage of rope that she's just like, that's incredible. What a great spell. And Susie then tricks Akko into saying a spell herself. She's like, say this spell. And Akko says it. And Susie's like, no. Say it louder from your gut. And she gets so frustrated with Susie that Akko gets so frustrated with Susie that she just belts out this spell as loud as she can, and then nothing happens. And it's actually kind of an intense moment. Like, oh, she's going to wake up to her magical powers and things like that. Yeah, no. She, you hear a cry in the distance.
Some trees start shaking.
Mm-hmm. And then this massive rooster head breaks out from the top of the trees.
Yep.
It's a cockatrice. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is a monster that you do not want to fight. It has the head, the body of a rooster, and it's instead of a regular rooster tail, it's got the tail of a cobra.
Yeah, its tail is the head of a cobra.
Or another venomous snake. I could be wrong about it being a cobra. But anyways, this cobra then, and not only that, but it has dragon-like wings where it can also breathe fire, and it can turn you.
It has petrification breath and fire breath
as well. Yeah. So in some legends, it's just its gaze can turn you to stone, but in this one, it's the breath.
I want to say it's in Greek mythology because it borrows a bit from Medusa as well. That just certain creatures, their gaze turns you to stone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a thing. They even had one in My Little Pony that started turning people to stone. That was fun. Actually, one of the interesting things about that show is when the first two-parter is like, oh, it's a manticore. And they're like, oh, they're actually calling it a manticore. This is legitimately, they're throwing in Greek monsters into this show. Good.
Yeah. But anyways, so
yeah.
So Susie then flies off and says, its feathers are some of the most poisonous things in the entire world, and it's what I came here to get. Well, really? So what are you going to do? You're going to distract for us? No, actually, you're my sacrifice. And she just flies off behind the bird, and she learns...
Doesn't care about these people at all.
No, she doesn't care about them at all. And she also tells them what the spell really meant, which is pretty much just calling out the cockatrice.
Yeah.
It's saying you're a big, I don't want to curse, but it's like saying you're a big, ugly turd. Come fight me. It's like a come at me, bro type thing. And the cockatrice comes after the two other girls. Well, the two girls,
They start
moving
running
the
in the spherical cage.
Yeah, they start running like it's a big hamster ball.
And they can't slow down.
No, they can't. Well, they also don't want to. But Susie then gets the feather. The girls trip and fall, and the cage breaks. Lottie is about to fall down a cliff, but Akko saves her. And they see that Susie's now in danger. Susie's in a lot of danger because of the cockatrice felt Susie take one of its feathers, and it's just like no. So it starts attacking Susie. Susie starts flying around and stuff. And then Akko, seeing that Susie's in danger, even though Susie is terrible and has been terrible to them, Akko decides that she needs to save her. She then runs and once again shouts the spell that's calling out the cockatrice, gets the cockatrice to follow her, and leads her into Mandrangora, which we didn't cover this, but they come across a bit of
shortly
Mandrangora,
after they reunited and got their stuff back, they ran into a man-eating plant.
Yep, a man-eating plant known as a Mandrangora, and she leads the cockatrice into the Mandrangora nest, and the two of them end up fighting, and Susie then comes down and having already picked up Lot, and gives her a ride, and the three of them are riding off on this broom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that's right. I remember what happens now. Well, I didn't really I wasn't trying to remember, but I just she gets a special wand. Akko gets a special wand, and she gets that wand because she goes up to save Susie, even though Susie was being mean to her. This wand just appears in front of her.
It happens as she's saying the words of inspiration to herself as she's helping Lot with a skinned knee walk back up the hill.
It's like something like, if you believe in yourself, then that's your magic, something along those lines.
It's something very similar to what Shining Chariot said in her magic show about magic being something you believe in, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so like there's this wand has like 5 or 7 gems set into it, kind of like materia or something.
Mm-hmm.
And with every utterance, one of those gems starts to glow until she says exactly the thing necessary to summon this wand to visibility, and then she just sees it there as she crests the hill, and then has it. Like, and she recognizes it. She recognizes it as Shining Chariot's wand.
Yep.
So, because of course she would, with how much of a fangirl she is.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. But now that she has this, weapon.
Yeah. Now that she has this weapon, she well, anyways, the 3 girls are flying off, and as they're flying off, the cockatrice has defeated the Mandrangora and is now flying off after them and is breathing fire at them. This is the first time we see it breathing fire. Up until that point, it's just been its smoke stone breath.
Yes.
Petrification breath, I guess we should call it.
Yeah.
And as they are fleeing, the broom that they're on, the last broom, Susie's broom, gets hit by the fire, and the broom then gets destroyed, and they all start falling. As they're falling, that's when Ursula Sensei appears. And Ursula Sensei sees that that Akko has that wand, has Shining Chariot's wand. And so she says, she's pretty sure she casts a spell because she starts speaking directly into Akko's mind and tells her what spell to cast.
Yes.
And Akko tells her exactly what to say. Akko then says those things, and the wand, one of the gems at the very top, starts shining orange instead of green. The rest of them then start glowing green. The wand opens up and morphs into a bow. She then creates an arrow out of magic and shoots it at the ground, recreating an entrance to the ley line beneath them.
Yes.
And so the 3 girls fall through this ley line entrance and And we then cut back to the academy, and they're just about to start the opening ceremony. The principal or the headmistress, whatever her name is, or whatever her title is almost in giving her speech. Just as the school's symbol in the middle of the floor lights up, and the three girls fly through it and then land on their butts in front of everyone. And Atko, being who she is not embarrassed at all by the fact that they've just disrupted this ceremony. And we see Ursula Sensei sneak in the back and stand at the back of the rest of the teachers.
Yes.
And Atko just gets super excited and she's super happy. They made it. They made it in time. It's still the opening ceremony. They're not going to fail. They're not going to get kicked out.
And then a breath later, the strictest of the teachers is walking her to her classroom while telling her, "You're lucky the principal has given you leeway to stay after the shenanigans you pulled, so you better be appreciative."
Kicked you right out, type thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's sent to this room, and then finds out that her new roommates are the girls, are Susie and Lottie.
And that's when that teacher says, "You're all such troublemakers. We decided to keep you together so we can keep a better eye on you," type thing.
Yeah.
Which they're happy about. Well, I'm not so sure about Susie. Susie has kind of opened up to them, though. Like, she realizes that Akko is a good person.
Akko. Okay, so as I don't know if we actually covered this, but during the fight with the cockatrice realized that Susie was closer and had one of its feathers. And so it started attacking her. And when Akko rescued Susie by getting its attention away from her and back to herself again, that's when Susie started warming up to these two as, maybe they're okay. And once the cockatrice was ensnared with the mandracora, Susie, who still had a broom, let Akko and let Akko and Lottie ride on her broom with her away, which she wouldn't have done if she hadn't warmed up to them as a personality. So the first episode was all about them getting together and kind of accepting one another.
Episode 1 ends with Ursula Sensei kind of smiling to herself in her room again.
Yes.
Anyways, episode 2 starts off with the girls waking up. We see in their room, we see Susie. She's doing her experiments and stuff. She turns a little spider into a little crystal with her poisons and whatnot. And this is like, we both just love the facial animations in this show, because she just, like, you can see Susie's smile even though she's wearing a gas mask. Just how her eye curves up. You can see in your head, you can just see the rest of her smile perfectly.
Yeah.
That she's so excited that what that poison did. Anyways,
so she was distilling poisons on her desk in the middle of the night in the room that all three of them sleep in. So, and then just she's there early in the morning doing that. We see that Akko sleeps on. So there's 3 beds. There's a bunk bed on one side of the room and a single bed on the other side of the room. And Akko sleeps on the bottom of the bunk bed. Susie on the other side. Lottie on the top bunk. And we see that there's a poster under the bunk bed right next to where she sleeps that is a Shining Chariot poster. And that's when Akko pulls out the wand. Is like, "Oh, it wasn't a dream." And she just goes gushing about this wand to her friends and says, "Yes, we know. We heard you the first 100 times."
Yeah, we know. But so they get ready and they go to classes, and then we run across the 2 teachers, the super strict one, or 2 of the teachers, the super strict one and Professor Ursula. Yeah. And Professor Ursula has been assigned to teach those 3 girls, to be pretty much their counselor. And this the strict teacher is kind of also chastising Professor Ursula for being here as long as she has and still not have the demeanor of a proper teacher.
Because something that happened even before then was there was a teacher council in front of the principal, and she slipped up in some way. I don't know if she like
She
dozed
yawned.
off.
She was tired and she dropped her
Yeah,
wand.
that's it. She yawned loud enough to be heard, which was a which they're supposed to be all these prim and proper, boarding school type people, and uh, the strict nun archetype is what the other teachers seem to be going for, and um, well, if all the other teachers are strict nuns, then Ursula Sensei is a bit Maria.
Oh gosh, yeah. But anyways, so it's revealed that Ursula Sensei has been, or Professor Ursula, if you will, has been assigned to be, their counselor, and she's saying, "Oh, I'm going to go ahead and teach the girls in my spare time and help them get caught up and things like that."
Yeah.
But
largely because everyone else would have come from a wizarding family and have a certain root in the basics, and they know. Then while Susie and Lottie have those basics, can already fly a broom, Aiko doesn't have any of those.
yeah, Akko doesn't.
Akko doesn't.
Anyways, Akko. And while they're walking down the hall, Ursula Sensei has a stack of books in her arms and can't really see in front of her. And so as she's talking, she trips over a small little gremlin or whatever creature in front of her. And she trips forward and launches the books in the air. And I just wrote down, this is a scene. This is Ursula Sensei tripping her way into my heart. She tripping and falling forward and then catching all of the books. She catches 2 in one hand, 3 in another, 2 on her foot as she's put her foot out and like kind of raised the foot up to where it could be flat against the books, and then 1 on her shoulder.
Yes, she's got 4 stacks of these books perfectly balanced in some bizarre yoga pose.
Mm-hmm. And then she falls that down anyway.
Yeah. Because she can only hop forward so many steps.
Yeah, she hops forward like that and then falls down anyways. And yeah, so yeah, she tripped her way into my heart with that scene. But anyways, it's next a montage of
the classes. Yes,
and we see there's a girl, Diana, who's the best student in the school, and it's even said that she's going to be the best witch to ever graduate from this academy. She's the type of student who knows all the answers. She's beautiful, but she's also cold and distant to people. Even the people who she's close to, she kind of never drops her mask, never drops the attitude that she has.
Yeah,
she's not mean. She just has this aura of a different breeding than everybody else.
Yeah, which she does. I mean, they do drop the fact that she is from a magical family with 1,500 years of history behind them, and
she's incredibly talented.
She is talented. She's while definitely here in America, that level of haughtiness would never fly. There's something in Japan about, because reminds me a bit of Kaguya-sama from Love is War.
Mm-hmm.
That there is this this level of aristocracy that she needs to maintain, that she can't demean herself to over explain anything, or that she has to speak in a very particular manner and have a certain, and that's not necessarily something we even really get here in America, but places like England where they actually have monarchies, and Japan where they actually do have a caste system, or at least the remnants of a caste system within their history. It's more their culture than ours would ever really get. But yeah, she's not a bad person per se, but she is very driven to be the best and to live up to the expectations of her family name.
And now I've got the Pokemon theme going through my head. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anyways,
so yeah, first class, they're studying this form of ancient rune, which she can translate flawlessly, and
she's the first person in the history of the Academy who can translate it.
Yeah.
So
and then Akko's just sitting there, we're studying what? on our first day of school. I have to learn this whole new language and everything.
And like we have this montage of classes, and there's this poison class
Oh,
or
the
potion class,
potion
and
class.
Lucy's just like Lucy has not cared, or not Lucy, Susie has not cared about any of the other classes, but she is studying this with like glowing eyes, just loving what's happening.
So yeah, the teacher's talking about, throwing in a live frog and Newton testins into whatever potion that she's concocting. And this particular teacher looks like Witch Hazel from the Looney Tunes. Not as green, but complete potion witch, the stereotype you'd expect to see as she's brewing, and this green miasma is filling the room. The smoke from the cauldron is filling the room,
And
and
she's just getting
and
more and more into it, sucking it in, being like, "Isn't this just a great smell? Isn't it great?" The students are coughing and hacking,
and so we see Aiko like literally try to duck out from under the smoke. We
and
see
Diane cast a spell and like clear the air around her. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And we see Susie stick her head in and take a deep breath and love it.
She loves it. Yeah. There's a couple other classes, and by the end of the classes, it's like lunchtime, and poor Akko is.
It was during,
like she can't take it anymore.
It was during one of those classes that Susie brews a little potion and drops it onto Akko's ponytail, which converts into a sprouted plant.
I missed that bit, but I did see the sprouted plant from then on.
Yeah. So that's what happens, is that the sprouted plant came from Susie just dropping a little bit of her potion on it. And so this is just something Susie does as she makes magic potions, puts a little drop on it, and things happen. Well, then that comes into play seriously in episode 3, which is going to be pretty funny.
Well, but, and then they have lunch, and I forget how it's brought up, but she has that wand, and some of the others. Oh, she's praising. That's right. She's praising Shining Chariot for being like the greatest witch of all time. Diana walks up and says, "Nobody in the world of magic takes her seriously at all." And Akko's just like, "No, that's not true. She's the greatest she's the greatest witch of all time. She's incredible. She's super popular. People love her." It's like, no. And Diana is like, again, not rude. She's just like kind of informing her, no, she's not. Nobody takes her seriously here.
Like that was true years ago.
But she
was famous for a time. But yeah, I mean, she comes from a world where there are centuries of tradition, and Shining Chariot would have been a flash in the pan during that. During those.
That's like saying, and a lot of our viewers may not know who I'm talking about, but Red Skeleton.
Red Skelton.
Right, Red Skelton. Thank you very much. Saying that he's the greatest, comedian of all time. Brilliant for his era. Great guy. Can you really call it like he was super popular for his time, but nobody knows who he is these days.
Right.
Nobody knows who he is. Or Victor Borge. Victor Borge.
Yeah.
Victor Borge. Yeah, he's genius, comic genius for his time. People who know him love him, but a lot of people don't know him anymore.
It's sad. Inflationary dialogue.
Yep. He makes sound effects and gestures with his finger. He makes sound effects and finger gestures with every single point of punctuation in this terrible short story that he's reading. And the short story is awful, but he's just like, period, comma, exclamation point.
Yes.
Yeah. So comic genius. Anyways, so that's like saying, no one really knows who it is. I guess kind of in anime, it would be, what's a good example in anime?
Like Astro Boy has a huge, everybody knows who Astro Boy is, even if you've never seen a single episode, because he has such a long legacy.
Oh, yeah. Whereas I was actually going to say Project Echo.
Yeah.
Project Echo, like Astro Boy is different because everyone knows Astro Boy. Everyone knows Astro Boy. Project Echo, though, huge for its time, especially here in America. It was one of the biggest anime movies for years here in America. But that's also because we didn't have a lot here.
Mhm.
Who knows Project Echo these days? That's not an old school anime fan, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like that. Anyways, so now we've beaten that horse to death twice. Um, she in order to prove that the wand she has is Shining Chariot's wand, Akko tries to cast a spell with it, but she
It
can't.
does.
No matter what she does, it doesn't work. And Diana then casts a spell on this statue, making
Yeah.
Akko think the statue's coming to life.
Hmm.
And this entire time, Akko's little ponytail, or whatever I don't think it's called a ponytail. I'm not quite sure what it's called. Her hairstyle, it's got that plant at the end of it.
Yeah, the sprouted plant.
This sprouted plant. And this statue leans in, and Akko starts freaking out at this thing. And the statue leans down, grabs the sprout, and plucks it out of her head. And then her hair returns to normal.
It does. And something interesting about that is that just the animation itself really kind of loses a bit of fluidity and becomes kind of raw during that
Yeah.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
The animation, and there's an emotional feel to it. There's this this incredible vulnerability that is the animation style at that particular moment. I mean, it draws you in, even though it looks unpolished. It looks like maybe they hadn't quite put the budget they should into the scene, but it felt deliberate. It felt like this was a good moment for a raw stylistic choice, animation wise, and I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Anyway, kind of moving on. This entire time, Ursula Sensei is watching from a window.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Diana then walks off after having, fixed Akko's hair.
After having proved her point, and then
mm-hmm.
there's a side story about this tree that lives on the campus, this ancient tree of yore that for some reason is dying, and it was Ursula's job to figure out why,
mm-hmm.
and she's behind on her task or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so there's this whole bit about how the tree is dying, and well, Diana finds out about it and decides, because she's the best student with the best skills, that it should be under her responsibility to help however she can.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gets her friends to help her create a magic circle wherein she imbues the tree with more nutrients and more life
Mm-hmm.
with a magic spell.
Yep.
And what she does, and in the meantime, just outside of this area, the three main girls are learning about Akko's collection of cards and everything, and how she has basically every bit of every card memorized, and is teaching them how to play a card game that's included with these collectible cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then and it's that point that she kind of reveals that there was a card that she doesn't have that she wishes she did. It was a collector's item that she was never rich enough to buy. It was She only ever saw it once in a display window of a store that was called, in English, the Awesome Store.
I want to open a store called the Awesome Store and just fill it with things that I like.
I think it should be an Awesome Shop or something like that.
Well, I just fill it with things that I find that are awesome, and someone comes in and is just like, well, this stuff isn't awesome. I'll be like, well, start your own awesome store then. Get out of my awesome store.
Yeah, there's a place in the Riverwoods, in the shopping center near where I live, that it's not a store. It's just a museum that a private collection of movie props, including some Harry Potter stuff, some Lord of the Rings stuff.
Excuse me.
And it was there that I actually got a photo of myself holding the Jurassic Park Barbasol can that opens up and has So I have a photo of myself holding that prop from that store, and it's actually a pretty cool little place to just wander around and see the different things. I think they had an original printing signed of Lord of the Rings, signed by J.R.R. Tolkien, like an early printing of it or something like that. So yeah, that's an awesome store that you could take examples from.
Okay.
Let's see what else do they have. But no, yeah. So this they're playing cards is interrupted by a root popping out of the ground magically.
Yeah,
Because
they're playing a
the
card
nutrients
game that apparently only Akko knows the rules to.
yes, and keeps winning 9 times out of 9.
Yeah, yep, 9 wins in a row. Susie's just like, I don't understand how you can do things with these cards that aren't actually written down on them. Anyway, so yeah, this root comes out and starts tearing the land apart, and they see it's happening all across the school, and so they run in and they see Diane, and Diane sees all these pods on the roots, and she sees the nutrients that she was giving to the tree going to these pods.
Yes.
Well,
and so she immediately assumes that they're parasites.
But we cut to Ursula Sensei, who's reading a book in the library right now, and she's just like, "Oh, this is great." Oh, it's like, that's what I thought. Yappari is what she says in Japanese.
And so yeah, she's reading,
and she sees that
good thing,
and she sees that same pod. She says, "Then we're close to seeing a miracle happen." And then it cuts back in there. And the girls are trying to ask Diana what happened, and Diana says that these parasites are eating this tree. This tree is apparently like the home of a soul of an ancient witch, and it's a holy symbol of their school, or something along those lines. Anyways, and she starts casting
Luna
spells.
Nova herself.
Might be.
The Luna Nova
write
witch
down
guy.
the name. I was taking notes when they said it. But anyways, Diana starts casting spells to destroy these pods. Well, Akko recognizes the symbol on one of these pods, or the markings on it, and she says, "Don't stop casting that spell!" And she jumps in front of one. And Diana says, "No, I need to destroy these things, otherwise it's going to kill our tree." She then turns her wand on another one and casts this spell at it, to which Akko then jumps in front of the spell and gets hit by it, freaking Diana out. And the other girls go to her, and she says, "No, don't touch these things. These things are a home of," I forget what they're called, but there's a special type of butterfly that flies across. They mentioned this earlier in the episode, that it's one of the cards that she has, and that's why she's able to recognize it. That it's a butterfly that only appears once every 120 years, and it flies across 5 continents before it dies. And people who see it are said to have happiness. And she's like, "Please don't. These things are sacred. We can't have that. We can't do this." And as she says that, the staff starts glowing. She then picks up the staff and she casts a spell. And
the spell was written on the bottom of the card that was of these butterflies, but she didn't know how to pronounce it. And it's at that point that Diana takes a look at the card and tells her the correct pronunciation of the spell. And so she contributes.
She casts this spell, and this spell undoes all the damage that Diana did to these pods. And these pods split open, and these butterflies come out. They look like fairies, but they call them butterflies.
Yeah.
Little,
or something like that.
Little glowing golden women with four arms, 2 legs, and just beautiful butterfly wings. And they start flying out. And then hundreds of these things start flying off of the tree and flying off into the sky. And we see Ursula seeing it happen, and she knows what happened. She understands what happened. And then it goes back, and the 3 girls are out running amongst the butterflies, having the time of their lives. And the headmaster and her friends, Diana's friends, come in, and the headmaster gives Diana all the credit for doing this incredible thing, for saving the tree and releasing these butterflies. And Diana's trying to tell her, "No, I didn't do this. It wasn't me." She doesn't want to take the credit for it because it's not her, but they're really not giving her a chance to speak.
No.
And I wrote down that I really, really appreciate that Diana's a good person. Like, yeah, she has different breeding and she treats people differently just because of her upbringing. But she's not the stereotypical
She's actually kind of cold and callous, even to the
Mhm.
girls that she's cold to the girls that talk positively about
Yeah,
her
yeah, and
and
that's
speak
what I
her up.
said before. She keeps them. She wears the same mask around them, but she's not the archetype typical, best student in the school who sees Akko as a threat to her status. She
Hmm.
doesn't. She's not like that.
No.
She sees the good in Akko and realizes that Akko you know, just loves magic. That's all she cares about is cool magic.
Yeah.
So she doesn't feel threatened by her, and I really like that she's just a good person. She just has a rough exterior.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was glad it wasn't one of those typical breaking down into being rival type thing. At least it hasn't done that yet. I kind of hope it doesn't do that. But anyway,
No.
um, next episode, we kind
Next
of skip.
episode is um is the episode where they have to learn where Akko has to learn how to ride a broom, fly a broom. And the episode starts off with Ursula Sensei um, meeting Akko in her bedroom with a school issued broom for her.
And just first time she's introduced her as her counselor.
Yes.
So
So she's
she's
been
met.
watching, but she hasn't quite interacted with them directly.
Mhm,
Despite attempts, she has not interacted with them directly yet.
mhm. And like I keep wanting to call her Ashia or like no, it wasn't Ashia. I'm trying to remember what they said in Japanese, but
Not quite
it
Ursula, is it?
it's not Ursula. But anyways, um, Ashura is what they were calling her, Ashura,
Ah,
which reminded me of like the god Ashura.
yeah.
That's what it sounded like to me. That's what they were saying in Japanese. But in English, it's Ursula.
Mm,
So that's what we're just going to keep calling her Ursula, just because we've been doing that this entire time. But she
yeah.
gives her the broom. Akko gets super excited about having her broom. They have flying lessons that day. She
Now,
tries to fly.
so, well, before she goes to the flying lessons, and we're going to
Uh,
talk about these, it's great. But before she gets to the flying lessons, it's at that point that so while before Akko receives the broom, she's in her room trying to practice spells with her wand against the books in her room to try to lift them up or do something. And it's then that Ursula says that recognizes the wand she's using, and Akko says, "Yes, I found it, and I'm holding on to it until I can find Shining Chariot to give it back to her." At which point Ursula says, "Well, you found it. Maybe you should hold on to it." Which made me immediately think, okay, Ursula's probably Shining Chariot. That was the moment for me. I'm like, Ursula is Shining Chariot in hiding. So why she's not cut out to be a teacher, really. She's too flamboyant, and so she can't, you know, mask herself as a teacher. She has a bird by the same name as a plushie that Akko has, and Akko's obsessed with.
oh yeah,
So I'm pretty sure that that's going to be the punchline. That's the moment when I first started suspecting.
hmm
But
yeah.
you never know.
I'm yeah.
I,
I mean,
I,
I kind of suspected as well. Either and like, there's multiple
and
times in
they
this
they
episode
they really
where
hint at it during this episode.
they really hinted at strongly at this episode. I mean, this episode we learn about a relay race where they ride brooms and they have to pass a ring between the riders or the racers in order to progress.
And Shining
Um,
Chariot was one of
and
the previous winners.
Shining Chariot won that year, her year at school, and there's this picture of her. And later on, we see near the I think at the end of the episode, we see Ursula looking at the picture of Shining Chariot winning. So either she is Shining Chariot in disguise, or she's related to her somehow.
Yeah.
It's very, very obvious in this episode. But anyways, she goes to flying class, and she just, no matter how hard she tries, she can't do it. The teacher gives her all the advice that she can, but she just can't do it. And this teacher is dressed up in like World War One aviator regalia, and she even
Uh,
has like a parachute hanging off her butt like they would as World War One pilots. So yeah, she's got this great outfit. Anyways, she can't fly, and one of the girls, this redheaded girl, is doing all these acrobatic stunts in the air and gets chewed up by the teacher because you're not supposed to do that in class. And then it shows Diana being super fast and incredibly good with her, like stopping on a dime type thing on her broom and whatnot, breaking records with what she's able to
Speed
do.
records, yeah.
But the entire time, poor Akko can't do a thing. She cannot fly. So later on, she gets a book from Ursula Sensei.
Yeah, which is a children's book.
Children's book for helping you to fly. Yeah. And some of the advice is be sure you clean with your broom because that's the broom's purpose. So fulfill its purpose and it will help you to fly more. And so she cleans with it for like 30 seconds and then tries to fly again. Nothing. She then threatens putting it on the bench.
She sweeps the grass.
Yeah, she sweeps the grass with it.
She's not actually cleaning. She's just pretending to clean.
And so she then puts the broom on the bench and she goes after it with a stick. It's like, hey, you need to let me fly. Otherwise, this is going to happen to you. And she breaks the stick against her knee. Can't fly. Still doesn't happen. So this entire time she's trying to fly and it just doesn't work. And it cuts to...
she begs it. She gets on her knees and prostrates herself and begs, please let me fly.
She wants to follow in the footsteps of Shining Chariot. She wants to win this race just like Shining Chariot did, her idol. And then Lottie and Susie go up to her and say, look, you should just give up. I mean, the relay race is really close. You're not going to be able to participate in it. And she's like, well... You kind of have to. What do you mean? Because I signed all of us up for it. And she shows the list for it. And now the girls know that they have to participate in this. Otherwise, it's going to be a bad mark on their grades for dropping out. And so they try to help her learn how to fly in a very, very Looney Tunes-esque montage.
Just a moment. Susie was willing to for the bad grade. Didn't care. Just, all right, I guess we'll just have to forfeit. And then they find out that that the potions teacher is deciding what the prize.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so a prize from the potions teacher? We're winning this.
Mm-hmm. And so they have this montage to help Akko learn how to fly. And this montage is just...
We both wrote this down.
Straight out of Looney Tunes. So
the first one, so on the school campus, there's this giant tower that's been established as there. And they take her to one of the high points of the tower, wrap her body and the bungee and the broom in this bungee cord, and then Susie, with a nudge to the nose, pushes her off a ledge, and she just falls.
And it's this massive bungee cord where she just keeps bouncing back up and down. The next bit, she then... next bit, they put her in a cannon with her on top of her broom, and they shoot her out of a cannon to get her to try to fly. Doesn't work. She lands and just crashes. Yep. And then the last bit is Susie dragging her behind her on a rope where Susie is flying, and she's trying to get some lift just by running.
Kind of reminded me of when
montage.
It actually reminded me of when Biff was dragging McFly on Marty McFly behind his horse in Back to the Future 3 as he's just rolling around trying not to get killed by this event.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just dragging around. Like, oh man. But eventually, yeah, so she never learns. And then it's established that so we mentioned in the first episode that Lottie's broom broke. Well, they have to go to a shop in town where her broom was getting fixed, and so they go to go pick it up.
It's a magic shop, and Akko really wants to go.
And so Akko's excited to go and check it out, and they go and they check it out, and it's a little bit creepy, and the cafe is literally just 4 seats at a bar at the end, in one tiny little corner. And it's like, this is not what I was picturing at all. But in one of the back, and like, so Akko's looking at all these different things. It says, "Eat this candy to turn into the tongue of a chameleon," or
And
like
she's just like, oh,
all
gross.
like, I don't believe any of these. And then she goes over, and there's a rattling coming from a glass case,
Mm-hmm.
and she looks over, and there appears to be a broom with a spearhead in the front, all in red, shaking and rattling itself, trying to break free of the chains and binds that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what's this? Well, the Sorcerer's Stone. There's a giant stone of magic at the top of that tower, and the magic it emanates is where all of the witches get their powers from and can cast magic from that. Well,
Uh-huh.
this thing has been imbued with so much magic that it can fly all around the world without being near the Sorcerer's Stone. But because it has a will of its own, because it has so much magical power, it has a will of its own, so it'll shake off its rider and keep flying. But this thing can fly faster than a jet, according to the shopkeep. And she asks to, like, I could ride that one. Let me ride that one. He's like, no, because of how much danger it is.
Well, he's like, if I let that out of the box, my boss will get angry at me.
Yeah.
So, and then we cut back.
He says the owner, and I didn't realize if that meant the boss of the owner of the shop, or if the fact that there is an owner of that particular broom and it's being kept there for safekeeping.
The way he said it in Japanese, it made me believe that it was the owner of the shop.
Ah, okay. Because I didn't catch that, but I don't know Japanese as well as you, so.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, so we then cut and we see the redheaded girl who's doing all the acrobatic tricks, leaning in, hearing about how powerful that broom is. We then cut to the day of the race, of the relay race.
Yes.
And Susie is telling Akko, or that, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, we've got this in the bag. And somebody's interviewing some people, and it's revealed that the girl with the red hair, she's hiding something underneath a tarp that is shaking.
Yes.
Implying very heavily that she stole the broom.
She absolutely stole the broom.
Anyways, the first one up is of the three girls is Lottie, and they're about to start the race, and she casts her spell. They fire their projectile, whatever it is. It's like a little gun that shoots a magic bullet. They into the air, and all the girls cast their spells, fly up. Except the one that flies up is Lottie.
Yep, all the other ones are stuck.
All the other ones are stuck. He's like, wait, what's going on? The announcer starts crying out, saying that Lottie is getting a head start. What's going on? Everyone else is stuck. And it cuts over to the other girls, and all of their brooms are stuck to the ground.
Branches have grown up and latched onto the hay, the bristles of their brooms, have grown up from the wood plank that they're on, and those are very. And we realize immediately that this is another one of Susie's potions.
It cuts to Susie, and she's grinning.
Yes,
Susie's cheating to help them win.
Quite openly.
Yeah, she wants that potion. And so after a bit, Lottie gets to Susie. Susie then flies off. And the girls start...
Well, while Lottie gets to Susie, another one of the flyers who had turned their broom into a cross between a motorcycle and a helicopter. It was a propeller-based, which even had... Now, this was the most dangerous thing for me, was that it had a blade that was parallel to the pilot's face on the front end of the broom, that is the same as the tail end fan of a helicopter that keeps it from just spinning around uncontrollably.
Mm-hmm.
But that was on the front, right in front of the face of the pilot. Mm-hmm. But this thing had a muffler and
Right next to the hay, which has already been established that if the hay catches on fire, you lose your ability to fly.
Yes, that's established too.
But she's doing it anyways.
But she has a propeller as well. Or that's just, and so she beats Lottie to the second portion of the relay, but
Oh yeah,
and who gets the ring next?
the person who gets the ring, I forget what her name is, but she is this person who's established that she loves food, that she's the king of eating at their school. And so she's sitting on her broom side straddle, and she's eating chips as she's flying along. But then all of a sudden she veers off course because somebody has tied up donuts hanging from tree branches. And she starts eating the donuts as and she just veers off course as she's eating them, giving Susie, who's obviously the one who set this trap up, enough time to go there and get to Akko, who's standing next to Diana, and Diana is just like, "What the crap are you guys doing?" And then like Susie passes off the ring to Akko, and Akko's like, "Ha!" And she pulls out this potion and pours it on her broom because she still can't fly. Well, the broom turns the hay turns into a single frog leg, and she starts jumping from thing to thing on this frog leg.
Another pogo stick reference.
And you're like, this is a weird turn of events. I mean, she's still on her broom, so she's technically allowed to do this.
That is an awful way to fly.
Diana's just like, what a terrible way to fly. But they're just going and cruising.
Well, as she's going along, eventually the person who is supposed to get Diane to get going makes it to Diane, and Diane is able to go. Also, the girl with the donuts makes it to the redhead with the special broomstick, with a mind of its own. Well, they're flying along for a while when the announcer says, "Okay, so the cheaters haven't been disqualified, but the girl with the broomstick with the mind of its own, the one that she brought along, is disqualified because she's not holding the totem.
Yeah,
she's holding a donut.
Yeah, she doesn't realize it, but so she lost the donut. Well, she lost because she's holding the donut.
Well, the broom gets away from her.
Anyways, Akko loses her broom, and so her only chance of winning is taking that flying broom. And so she gets on the flying broom, and she does a fairly decent job of staying on top of it. She keeps grabbing the chain and getting on it, and just but eventually the broom is too much for her to handle, and she falls off. And she falls off from pretty high up. She gets caught by Diana.
Yes.
Diana puts her down and says, "This is me repaying you for what you did earlier. My debt is now zeroed out. We're even." She then gets up and goes off and returns to the race. And Akko's just like, "I'm not losing this." And so she sees she finds the red broom flying through the air again. She runs off, grabs the cannon, aims the cannon at the broom, ignites the cannon, and then jumps inside of it just in time for it to launch her at this broom. She then grabs the front of the broom, flips herself in front of it, grabs the chain, flips it around her, so she is now tied to the broom.
Yes, the chain tied around her waist.
The broom in like this super intense. And I shared the picture with you that I found of it, but there's this super intense scene where she's just like got this maniacal grin on her face as the wind forces are just like flapping her cheeks and stuff.
Yeah, so you shared a picture of that with me, and I'm like, "So you're on episode 3 already?" It's like, "No, not yet." Like, "Oh well, spoilers."
It wasn't much of a spoiler. But yeah, like I was looking
at on this show.
I was looking at pictures because I saw the movie of this years ago. But I couldn't recognize Lot. Like I remembered Susie and I remembered Akko as the main characters. As 2 of the 3 girls, but I could not remember Lottie at all. So I was looking at pictures of Little My Hero Academia, or not My Hero Academia, My Little Witch Academy. And that was one of the first results. And it was just like, oh my gosh, what an amazing picture. And I just shared it with you. And like, oh, so you're on episode 3. And like, no, not
But
yet.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
great, and it's great in animation too.
Oh, it's so
it's
good.
a perfect still frame, and it's
Uh-huh.
great as it's animated too. It's
Hmm.
just fantastic.
But anyways, she then gets back in the race. And this is when yeah. She is then in second with Diane, and this is actually when the red-haired girl joins back into the race, and she's catching up. But that's when she gets disqualified because she has a donut instead of having the
Yep.
ring. So then it's then between Diana and Akko, and Akko is catching up. She's about to pass her, but then the chain breaks off. The metal bolts holding, that she's been using as a hand to hold, break off, and she just falls. And she falls and tumbles and lands, and it shows it then cuts and it shows a picture showing that Diane and her team won. They got first place in this relay.
Yeah.
And she's kind of upset at it. She's kind of sad, but she knows that there's always next time.
Yeah, she got second place though, and nobody.
She got second place as somebody
Nobody who
can't
couldn't fly a broom got second place. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when we see Ursula looking at the picture.
Now there was something else. Is that when once all of the chains and all of the locks had broken off of the broom, its tail had spread out to look like bird wings.
Bird wings. Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it was the same broom that that Shining Chariot was using during her display that she was riding on top of, and that's how she could do magic so far away and do shows for the general public, was that she had these magic items that didn't require stuff.
Maybe.
So I thought it was Shining Chariot's broom eventually established that, and I was looking for its master and can't find her.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to look into that. But anyways, that's it for the first 3 episodes.
It is.
What are your final thoughts?
I love it. I am going to absolutely get my kids to sit down with me and watch this with me.
Good. I want to watch more of it too because I loved the movie. I thought the movie was fantastic. And just kind of a little bit of the history of this show. This started off as a short film back in 2013. It was a short film. Mm-hmm. And it was later then streamed on YouTube with English subtitles in April of that same year. It became so popular that they made a Kickstarter for a movie. And that Kickstarter then went through, and that movie was released in 2015, October 2015. That movie was then posted on Netflix. The movie became so popular and was so well loved, they made 2 seasons of the anime.
Oh, great. Okay.
This has had an incredible journey.
So movie first and then the show? Do you think?
It was the short movie. It was then the full movie because of the Kickstarter project, and then
I'm just wondering what order to watch it in then.
Oh, order to watch it in?
Yes.
I'd say the order that it was released in. So, okay. I mean, the girls are already established as friends, and they're in the middle of school, and she wants, and it's called Little Witch Academia, The Enchanted Parade, and it's kind of the school festival, and she wants to do this cool kind of thing for her hero, the witch that she loves and nobody else does, but no one wants her to do it because that no one likes that witch but her. So that's still established. But the movie just kind of goes into it. They're already friends. They're already classmates. It establishes their personalities really, really well. I will say that in the movie, though, Susie is a lot creepier, but kind of in a more adorable way. She's really skinny and kind of walks and moves in a very creepy manner. But anyways,
is she anything like the occult girls from Asobi Asobase and the cookies?
Maybe, I don't remember. It's been years since I watched the movie. I just remember really liking it. But the anime, the first 3 episodes have been absolutely delightful. So I definitely plan on watching more, especially since it's now October. I can have an excuse just to sit down and watch it. Bless you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, that's it for Little Witch Academia. Let's go ahead and move on to next week's episode, which is going to be another school that has Halloween elements to it. And we're going to be watching the first 3 episodes of Soul Eater. Now, the description is I took from Crunchyroll, because Crunchyroll used to have it. They still have the page up, but I'm pretty sure they removed the episodes due to them breaking up with Funimation. Soul Eater, however, is still up on Netflix, so we can stream it on Netflix.
Great.
I own it on Blu-ray regardless, so I can go ahead and watch it on my own. But I'll probably just be streaming it on Netflix. But anyways, the description is from Crunchyroll. Just wanted to go ahead and clarify that. We'll be watching it on Netflix.
Okay.
Maka's a Meister, and her soul, and soul is her weapon. I'm going to go ahead and say that again. Maka is a Meister, and soul is her weapon. And they're a freaking lethal team in battle against the monsters and ghouls that feed on innocent souls. That's when Soul transforms, literally, into a razor-sharp scythe, and Maka wields her partner and unleashes her inner slaying. Fighting alongside their Meister weapon classmates, Maka and Soul are the world's last line of defense against evil.
All right.
They go to a school that was made by the Grim Reaper.
Yes.
For the sole purpose of training people to hunt down witches. If that's not Halloween for you in anime, I don't know what is. And no, we're probably not going to be watching Devilman Crybaby, okay? We try to keep this kind of for younger audiences.
Sure.
We're not going to watch Devilman Crybaby. Don't suggest it. Well, suggest it, but we will ignore you. Or maybe, give you a frowny face response. Anyways, so that's what we're going to be watching for next week.
Great.
All right, well, that's it for 3 episodes in. We are now on Recommendation of the Week, and it was your recommendation this week.
It is my recommendation, and I'm going to recommend an anime that my kids had been watching in their after-school anime club that they wanted me to get involved in, and I'm now completely caught up on it and can't wait for the next episode. It's a new series that came out this season called Dr. Stone.
I'm up to date on the manga. It's fantastic.
So Dr. Stone, every time I watch it, I keep thinking that this has got to be this Minecraft the anime. Because you have these characters that are based on the premise of the show, basically spawning into a world of pure raw resources out in the wild, but with modern intellects. And so they're creating tools out of stone. They're building houses to protect themselves from the elements and creatures in the area. And then they're smelting metals and making glass and doing, it's like, okay, that's more Minecraft. That's something else you can do in Minecraft. Is my experience with the show so far.
Well,
now it's delightful, and it's got great characters and a great premise. Very interesting. So the premise of the show is that in our modern day, suddenly, all of a sudden, everybody is turned to stone, and then people start waking up from being turned to stone 3,700 years later. And so most of civilization is wiped out, and slowly people are being reintroduced into the ecosystem. And this one guy who, the main character of the show is a kid who decided at a young age he wanted to be an astronaut, but he didn't want to have to wait for anybody else. And so he learned as much science as possible to get himself into space. And so he learned as many things as possible about science, but as a result, didn't spend nearly enough time on his own body, so he has low physical endurance and things of that nature. And so he needs some muscles. The reason the show is actually called Dr. Stone, is established in the first 3 episodes, was that the main character is not called Dr. Stone. It just so happens that one of the first inventions that they make is a bar of soap, which is the closest thing they have to medical science, because good hygiene is what separated early man from the ability to have a longer life and to avoid infection. And so,
that plays a key role because he ends up saving somebody's life because of good hygiene.
Yeah.
So, which leads into saving that person's life. So,
so a bar of soap is called the Dr. Stone.
Yeah. The manga's incredible. I absolutely love it. And I don't think this is a spoiler to say that the main character, Senku, is an evil genius.
No,
and he has
that's
some of the
kind
most
of
delightful.
established pretty early on.
It's
Facial
they
some
have
of
some
his,
amazing, just evil grin animations and drawings of him.
yeah.
So good.
He's a mad scientist, and some of his facial expressions are priceless.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, highly
It's
recommend.
so good.
Give it a watch.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's it for recommendation of the week. It's now
Yep.
creator shout out time, and it's my turn. And I want to give a shout out to, and this is someone who I've been wanting to give a shout out to a while. I have kind of like a folder of artists that I want to give shout outs to when I come across their stuff. But I want to give a shout out to Dennis Easthoman. I'm probably saying the name wrong. An incredible artist that once again I came across on Imgur. I'm going to go ahead and send you the link of his stuff that I found on Imgur. The top one is a great art, a piece of Link and Zelda, and under that there's he's got Evangelion. There's some Studio Ghibli inspired pieces, and then just some modern paintings of different landscapes and cityscapes and things like that. But yeah, we have his link to his Twitter and his link to his ArtStation page, and he's just got some absolutely incredible art. Go ahead and give this guy give this guy a look, and if you want to go ahead and support him, go ahead and purchase some of his stuff.
I'm taking a look at his gallery here, and he's got some fantastic landscapes. His quite the mastery of color and composition. I'm just adoring this. This is
He's
fantastic.
Awesome stuff.
All right. Oh yeah, so some of his Zelda stuff reminds me of a little clip that I saw. Somebody had come up with Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. You have a Sheikah slate, and that slate you have certain powers that you can select from. You have the bombs, you have the camera, you have various other elements. But one of the funniest bits that I've seen is somebody added a motorcycle to the list in this photo edit, and then because there is a Legend of Zelda themed motorcycle that you can ride in Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, the Master Cycle.
The Master Cycle. And so they just put a motorcycle into Breath of the Wild for fun for this little clip. So I need to see if I can't find a way of sharing that with you. It was a thing on Facebook I saw, and so
all right.
Anyway.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for listening in this week or watching it. If you were watched us on YouTube, if you watched us on YouTube, please feel free to like our episode and subscribe to our channel. If you like what we do and want to support us, please share our channel with your friends. Where can they find us on social media?
Our site, whittakerweekly.com, currently has the links to our Facebook page, Twitter account, and YouTube channel. We encourage all our listeners to follow us on the social media platform of their preference, and if there's one we're not on yet, please reach out to us on one of the ones we've mentioned, and we'll broaden our scope to include you.
Okay. Well, I want to give a shout out to Ben Coombs for providing the artwork for our website and for our podcast.
And a special thanks to Brasmataz, whose song Drykolk we used to the opening and closing song for our podcast.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode. I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And this has been Whittaker Weekly. You guys have a great week.